somebody mentioned to me about the idea of when you put your attention on something in an observational sort of way, healing happens in that place that you're observing. Did you get that? When you put your awareness on something in an observational way, in other words, mindfully, healing happens in that place. And so, what that healing might be is nothing more than the muscles just relaxing. I mean, that might be the extent of the healing. And so, whenever I have any problem at all falling asleep, and I rarely do anymore, but if it takes longer than 3 or 4 minutes to fall asleep, then I just do this, what we did. I just started my feet, and I don't use any cues or anything, but I'll be lying in my bed, and the first thing I think is, I am loving lying here. And that brings me to this here and now experience, and then I just start at my feet, and I just do exactly what we did. What's going on in my feet? What's going on in my ankles? What am I noticing? And I have yet to make it past my waist. And I'm gone. Every single time. There's something about attention placed passively in us that is incredibly useful for us. And if it means falling asleep, when we become mindful by doing that, the body goes, oh, I guess when I'm lying down, that's what I'm supposed to do is sleep. Gone. Because your mind's not on all the other stuff, right? It's on something here and now. These are from a book called Cup of Zen. It's all these really cool comics, sort of, but they all have really like ancient Chinese secret stuff. You know, you've heard of that. Well, it's from Zen Buddhism, and it's very interesting, and every one of them is kind of cute, but there's always, in most of them, there's a master and an apprentice, or a master and somebody who's coming to learn from the master. And so I just want to walk you through these and see if they sound like something like what we have been playing with, what we played with on Tuesday. And since you can't read that probably very clearly, I'll read it to you as well. The first one's called A Cup of Zen. And it says, one day a scholar went to see a Zen monk named Nanan to inquire about Zen. Nanan treated his guest to a cup of tea. He poured the tea into a cup, and when the cup was full, he kept right on pouring. And the guy says, Master, that's enough, it's full. And the master says, you are just like this cup, full of your own thoughts and ideas. If you don't first empty yourself, how can I teach you about Zen? I understand. And then with most of these, there's a little postscript or post-thought. He says, if your mind is filled with your own prejudices, the truth that others speak can't be heard. When engaging in conversation, most people are in a hurry to express their own opinions, and as a result, they don't hear anything but the sound of their own voices. Next one is called The Ordinary Mind. And he says, Master, how shall I practice the Tao? And the Tao meaning from Taoism, written by Lao Tzu. The Tao is called the way, is the way, I guess, or the path. So very, very powerful philosophy, very peaceful. He says, how shall I practice the Tao, or the way? And he says, the master says, eat when you're hungry and sleep when you're tired. Isn't that what most people do anyway, he says? The master says, no, that's not what most people do. Most people entertain 1,000 desires while they eat and untie 1,000 knots while they sleep. Says in the post item, he says, how many people wake up in the morning still figuring out problems from the day before? We should take everything that threatens our peace of mind and throw it out. We should live according to our original nature, because the ordinary mind is the Tao. The next one, this is probably one of the most, I've seen this in a dozen different books and presentations, and it's so great. And it is everything about what we were playing with on Tuesday and we'll finish up today. It's called Past, Present, and Future. One day, while walking through the wilderness, a man happened upon a vicious tiger. "Help!" he cries. He ran, but soon came to the edge of a cliff. Climbing down a vine, he discovered another tiger at the bottom. Then 2 rats appeared and began gnawing on the vine. "Rip! Oh no!" he's crying. Suddenly he noticed a plump red strawberry. He plucked it and popped it in his mouth. Delicious. Isn't that great? He says, "Don't dwell on the past, don't worry about the future, experience and cherish the moment. Happiness is acting according to circumstances, whatever they may be." And the last one, which is my favorite, this is called Carrying a Woman Across a River. One day while the Zen monk Tanzan and a young monk were traveling, they happened upon a beautiful young lady in distress. The master says, "Here, let me carry you across." She says, "Thank you very much. Goodbye." The two continued on their journey for more than half the day, and you can tell that the apprentice is thinking. He says, "I thought we monks were supposed to avoid women. Why did you just do that?" The master says, "Huh? Oh, you mean that woman way back there? I put her down long ago. Are you still carrying her?" Tanzan carried a person across a river, but in his mind he wasn't carrying a woman. He was completely detached and had no misgivings. The one who was really carrying a woman seems to have been the younger monk, wouldn't you say? Isn't that great? And we'll continue with the steps or the process of being mindful, but I want to give you the only true definition of mindfulness. This is the best definition. It comes from a gentleman by the name of John Kabat-Zinn. He's a medical doctor, works in New England hospitals. He works with pain people who the doctors say, "We can't do anything more, John, can you help out?" And he's written in several of his books what he does with people, and it's all about exactly what we're doing here. And his definition is absolutely perfect, so I suggest you write this down. He said, mindfulness involves intentionally doing only one thing at a time. Mindfulness involves intentionally doing only one thing at a time and making sure I am here for it. Mindfulness involves intentionally doing only one thing at a time and making sure I am here for it. Since you can only do one thing at a time, since you can only think one thing at a time, the idea is to make sure you are in that what you're thinking about, that you're in that where you are. It's a powerful, powerful statement. And I think really, I mean, I know this is kind of bold of me to say, but that's the solution to stress management. It is as good as there is. When people are stressed, it's just because their minds are not in the moment. Stick your mind in the moment where you are. The moment is always safe. And your body gets that. So we started out last time, or we ended last time, talking about the steps or the process of becoming mindful. And we said the first of these was what? Stop, right? which means take your mind, get yourself out of the endless chatter of past and future that has the possibility of including worries, doubts, angers, fears, guilt, whatever. Get your mind off those, and you can do that. You have a choice about what you think about. So bring yourself to this moment by stopping the moments that aren't happening in your head, okay? As well as the places that aren't in your head, that aren't happening in your head. And then the next one was? Look. Meaning, what did we decide look meant? What, David? Yes. Focus on what is unfolding both inside of you and outside of you. Focus on that and let that be what you put your attention on. Okay? We good to there? Any questions about those two? Did anyone try this, by the way? Or did you just go back to, oh, I'm so frustrated about this test that's coming up in 2 weeks? Did you? What happened?
I was a lot better. So I had a test this morning, and before we took the test, we were waiting in line for the shuttle bus, and we were studying, and some normally answered on such a beautiful day today.
It was a beautiful day, wasn't it? It is. And isn't that a better choice when you're in the bus line than thinking about somewhere where you're not? Isn't that a great idea? Thank you very much for sharing that. So the third thing we do, is we move into a state of acceptance. We accept what is happening. So on the opposite of that is we don't resist. We allow. We be in that upper part of the levels of responding by saying, wow, this is a great day, and I accept that this is what's happening for me. Instead of, oh, it shouldn't be raining. If it were raining. You know, being mindful means going, oh, this is what is, and okay, good. And the next minute it will probably change too. And the next minute will be different still. And we accept, especially the things we can't control. I mean, entirely the things we can't control. Okay. Can you sense how different that feels? She can't help it. That's how she is. Okay. So we accept, and kind of along those same lines, we let go of the need to change anything that you can't control. We let go of the need to change things that we can't control. Now, it doesn't mean you're just going to be, you know, wave after wave and you're going to be knocked over from everything that's happening. That doesn't mean you become the martyr, but so very many things that happen in our days we have no control over, nor could we possibly do anything to affect in any way. It's raining. The fly just flew over my head. Okay, I can't control that flies, but I can kill it if I want to also. And that would be, I would accept my ability to kill the fly. But I also, if I can't get to the fly, then my going, flies just... Did you guys see that fly? Am I just making it up? I mean, there's a fly in here, right? There he is. See, and if we...
Did you get it?
Oh my God!
I should have slapped it. So does that make sense, though? When we are letting go, we're saying, I don't need to try and change this. I don't need to try and change her. I don't need to try and change these drivers. I don't need to try and change how my boss is. I don't need to try and change. Now, if you have some ability to influence them, you take that step. You still be proactive about what you want to get in your life. But when you can't do anything about it, then if you want to be peaceful, if you want to stay not stressed, you've got to go to here. You stop with the thinking. You check out what's happening. If what's happened and whatever's happening, you say, I'm okay with it. I want to read a couple quotes that are really cool. This first one, and I think this one we put in the book, but it's just so very profound. Just kind of tune into this. This is from the book called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, which was a kind of a cult book in the 70s. I mean, it was really one of those culture-changing books. It was really philosophical, fascinating read by Robert Pirsig. He wrote this. He's talking about climbing mountains. And it is exactly what we're saying here. Tune into this. He says, mountains should be climbed with as little effort as possible and without desire. And you could put anything else in there. Getting a degree at Weaver State, or having a good time with my girlfriend, or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Going, to my job. This is how we be mindful in it.
Can you say that again?
Which?
The thing you just said, mountains should be...
Okay, I'm going to read it. And it's in your book, so you'll get a chance to see it. He says, mountains should be climbed with as little effort as possible and without desire. The reality of your own nature should determine the speed. If you become winded, stressed, slow down. If you're bored, speed up. You climb the mountain in an equilibrium between restlessness and exhaustion. Then, when you're no longer thinking ahead, and those of us who do climb mountains and mountain bike and go into nature, you've had this experience before. When you're no longer thinking ahead, in other words, being mindful, each footstep isn't just a means to an end, but a unique event in itself. This leaf has jagged edges. This rock looks loose. From this place, the snow is less visible, even though closer. These are the things you should notice anyway. Remember, we said we take in about 1% of all the stimuli that's available. Those are the things that we would want to take in anyway. He says, to live only for some future goal is shallow. It is the sides of the mountain that sustain the top. Here is where things grow. And then another quote that I just want to read, and I know it's not good to read quotes, but I want to demonstrate how this principle of doing this applies across the spectrum of things that we do, and it makes every one of them better and less stressful. And so there was a guy by the name of Thich Nhat Hanh who was a Tibetan monk. He was a Buddhist. He wrote Peace in Every Step. I think that was the name of it. And so, man, what was it? The Miracle of Mindfulness, I think. He was one of the first ones to write about mindfulness in America. And he said this, and this is in your book also, but listen very carefully, because he's talking about something so absolutely, incredibly mundane and boring to most of us, about washing dishes. And listen to what he has to say about that. He says, to my mind, the idea that doing dishes is unpleasant can only occur when you aren't doing them. I enjoy taking my time with each dish, being fully aware of the dish, the water, and each movement of my hands. I know that if I hurry in order to go and have a cup of tea, the time will be unpleasant and not worth living. That would be a pity. For each minute, each second of life is a miracle. Each bowl I wash, each poem I compose, each time I invite a bell to sound is a miracle. And each has exactly the same value. And then get this, really tune into this, because this is why people are stressed. This next sentence, he pinpoints it better than anyone I've ever read. He says, if I am incapable of washing dishes joyfully, in other words, incapable of doing this. If I want to finish them quickly so I can go and have a cup of tea, I will be equally incapable of drinking the tea joyfully. With the cup in my hands, I'll be thinking about what to do next. And the fragrance and the flavor of the tea, together with the pleasure of drinking it, will be lost. I'll always be dragged into the future, never able to live in the present moment. Now contrast that with, on one occasion I went with my family to Southern California. We went to Magic Mountain and Disneyland. We all know what I'm talking about. And there's that, they have a ride at, it's not Magic Mountain, it's, what's the one? The resort right next to Disneyland. Yeah, California Adventures. We went to that place. I like that much more than Disneyland. And they had this ride at the time. I don't know if they still have it. I hope they do. It was called California Screamin'. You been on that ride? Best ride. That was just so much fun. Now, think about this. If I were at, and I went with my family, we all went on this ride, and you know, it starts off and you go around this corner and then you wait there for a minute and then suddenly you're going 60 miles up a thing and then you're twisting and flipping, and it's so much fun. Now think about how stupid it would be if while I'm on that ride, in the middle of the flips and the twists and the turns, I'm going, man, I sure hope I get a parking place later. And man, where are we going to eat so that all my kids will be happy? Because one doesn't like Mexican and the other can't stand hamburgers and the third one can't stand anything that has sauce of any kind. You know, if my mind is dwelling on those, what am I missing? I'm missing the ride. And that's what we see people do over and over and over in their lives. They go, I can't wait till this happens, and I can't wait. Life will be better when kindergarten's here. Life will be better when I'm in grade school. Life will be better when I'm at a grade school and I'm in junior high. How many of you were so happy to be in high school? And then how many of you were so happy to be out of high school, looking forward to college? How many can't wait to get out of college? And how many of you are so excited about the possibility of getting married, having a family? How many people do you know can't wait to end their family through a divorce and get rid of the guy or the lady? How many can't wait to retire? I knew tons of people who, life will be good when I finally retire. And what have they done? They missed the whole life because they were hoping that that next thing would be great. And what I found is the instant we do this, it's like holding the baby. Who is our mom with the baby? Yeah, it's like that all the time. That's how life is supposed to be. And if we do this, that's what we get. But we think we're important when we go future and past thinking. We think, oh, I got to be concerned about this test coming. I got to be worried about, am I going to survive? Things work out. You'll be okay. We always are. But you're exactly right. We'll miss it. We'll miss it all. And that, what Thich Nhat Hanh said, is the biggest pity of all, is we let ourselves get filled up with what's not happening. Does that make sense to everyone? Did I explain that in a way that you kind of sense that? And so when you are at the bus line, you go, wow, look at that sunset, or sunrise, or wow, all these cool people, and what are people wearing today? Have you ever been talking to somebody and you know they're not there? Is that wonderful? Don't you just love that? You're talking to them and you see this glazed eyes and you think, over here, I'm over here, talk to me. We spend so much time doing things that we don't focus on, we don't enjoy. You know, how many of you took a shower this morning? Hopefully most of you. How many of you have no awareness of the shower? You didn't spend any time going, oh man, this feels so good. How many of you ate breakfast today and didn't give it a second thought. When you were eating, it was just, okay, raisin bran, okay, something else is going on, I got to think about it, okay, let me check my emails, let me check my text, and all these other things, and you forget to eat the meal. And we wonder why we're stressed. It's obvious. We're never enjoying the moment. And that's why I say, when people I work with who say, I've got so many things on my plate, remember at the beginning, and I can't get rid of anything, and I'm so stressed, and my suggestion to them is, you can have that all. Just be present with where you are. When you're at the soccer match, be at the soccer match. When you're at the piano lessons, I'm talking about parents who have all kids who have all doing all these things. When you're at the piano lesson, be at the piano lesson. Enjoy the heck out of it. When you're driving, then be with the drive. And every next thing, when you're making out with somebody, make out with her. And don't think about somebody else, be with her. I know that sounds weird, but we so many times, we don't get to be with what we're doing. When we're playing ball, play ball. I think that's why people love sports so much, is because it forces you to be in the present moment. I think that's why people love poetry. I think that's why people love crafts so much. I think that's why people love art so much. Because when you're doing those things, you're focused. And your body knows, oh, I'm focusing on now, and I'm safe. Good. And you get that joyful feeling. Is that cool? That's one of the coolest things I've ever learned in my entire 50 years of life. It is so amazing how powerful that is. And we all were doing it at one point. When we were small, we all did it. So it's in you to do. Now, final thought. Because every time I do this, I have some students who say, as a matter of fact, I had one student once who said, you know, that's a cute idea. This mindfulness stuff is a cute idea. I'll try it sometime. And she actually wrote me this long letter saying, I got better things to do and be mindful. And this was my response to her. And I tried to be as loving as possible, but we don't want to, we're here to learn how to figure out how to be peaceful. This is the most powerful tool that anyone in the world is using. Besides meditation, this is the best thing there is. And so this is what I wrote to her in response, because she did this exercise as cute idea, I'll get around to it sometime. So I said, starting with this right here, I said, if you're ever to be at peace, you must come to accept, even embrace what you see in front of you. And the only way to really see what is in front of you is to stop analyzing, stop judging, stop trying to figure everything out, and just look. Just stop and observe. To be fully present in this moment is to be at peace. To be out of this moment, thinking we are somewhere else, doing something else, is precisely why we feel stress on a continual basis. To say this is a silly exercise is to say that life is silly. Look at your experience. There is never a time when it is not this moment, right here, right now. All of life is successive moments of the present. We can always choose what we want to see in this moment. To choose to be mindful instead of mindless is wisdom of the highest order. It is, in my mind, one of the grand keys, but it must be practiced. So practice for the rest of your life, because that is all you have, moments. And I really believe that. The more that I've watched life happen. Yeah.
If none of that works, the point's not the point.
Here's your real motivation. Of all of the things that I've learned, I mean, I've said this before, but if you tune into this and really eat it up, you know, just taste it and savor it and really enjoy, every single thing you do expands and becomes better. Everything. And the more you do it, the more you realize how, like you guys were saying, we've got it pretty good. Things are pretty good. And as soon as we start observing it, our sense of that really expands. So, good stuff.